Okay, this is the 5th time I'm trying to make this video. I kid you not, the 5th time. My husband started singing in the kitchen while he's cooking. I love him, but not a very good singer. Then he came in here to get his PJs, and he was in his underwear, and I was like, okay, I'm trying to make this video. Then my son needed me. My other son called me. So the camera tipped over. So this is like the 5th time. So anyway, God, please be with this video so I can finish it and get this going. Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing. Anyone who knows me or has spent 5 minutes with me, they know I'm a Christian. Anyone who knows me and knows my testimony knows I believe in heaven and hell. They know I believe in Jesus and the enemy, 100%. I believe that spiritual warfare happens. I believe it's going on like really, really bad right now with the presidential elections being over and our new president-elect being in. And, you know, he's setting some rules and he's setting some guidelines and he's making some wrongs right. And so there's a lot of spiritual warfare going on right now, and I believe in that. And if you carry a Bible or you read the Bible, then if you study anything about the Bible, then you would believe in spiritual warfare too. You would believe in Jesus, Satan, heaven, hell, good, evil. You'll believe in all of that if you believe in God, because it's all through the Bible. In fact, the Bible speaks more of hell than it does heaven. So anyway, we have one enemy. One. That is Satan. Now, he can use different tactics. He can use different things to hurt people. And the one thing that bothers me the most about the enemy, and I said I will spend the rest of my life speaking out on this, is bullying, because it leads a lot of times to suicide. Okay, cyberbullying. That's something I want to talk to you about real quick. And like I said, I don't like long videos. I've said this before. I like them short, to the point, you know. So I'm going to quickly give you these statistics before anybody starts singing again. Just saying. Okay. 83% of victims say of cyberbullying say that it has hurt their self-esteem, and that they have felt hurt, and they have felt their self-esteem is damaged from cyberbullying or bullying of any kind. Okay, 87% have witnessed it. 87% of kids have witnessed cyberbullying. 15% admit to being the bully. 24% don't know what they would do if they were bullied. Now listen to this statistic. I want you to listen to this. And I know so many times we're so desensitized because of everything that comes at us with, you know, media and, you know, all the things that are going on for kids in school. And, you know, we live at such high expectations materialistically, we do. And I think people work more hours than they should, and that's a whole other story for a whole other time. But we're just really stretched in a lot of ways to make things work for families and everything else. But I want you to listen to this statistic, because it's really hit home with me. 30% of children who have been bullied have considered suicide. 30%. So bullying is obviously having an effect on a lot of people. And I don't think it just has effect in cyberbullying. I think it has effects in the workplace. Excuse me. I think it has effects in your household. I think it has effects within social groups. And I've known adults to bully, and it honestly blows my mind. I've made mistakes in my life. I've repented for those mistakes that I've made, and they're gone for me. They're gone, because the entire good news of the gospel is that your sins are washed away, that you are forgiven once you ask. And I believe you have to be a forgiving person. I believe that 100%. Doesn't mean you can have a relationship with someone who's bullied you, but it does mean you have to forgive and move forward. I want to tell you one story real quick of this one girl. Her last text to her family was, "I love you so much. Just remember that, please. And I'm sorry for everything." This is before she committed suicide. Her sister Jacqueline said she tried everything she could to save her sister. She said she heard someone crying, and I screamed, "Please don't." She had already made up her mind. According to police, this young girl died at the hospital. The family attributes her death for years of an onslaught of bullying for many, many years. People created fake social media accounts to harass her. They would make dating websites. They would use her profile pictures and create fake social media accounts to bully this girl. And if you look, it says for years. For years. Okay, family repeatedly tried to stop the bullying. It was not only going on social media, but it was going on in schools. Now I want to give you a little source of this. You can believe it or not. Either way, I really don't care. But this happens because it is a tactic from the enemy. Now you're thinking, well, that wasn't the devil with, horns and a red tail and running around with a pitchfork being mean to her. Guess what? It is Satan. It is evil. And what he does is the spirit of bullying is from him. The spirit of hurting and offending someone and bullying someone or making someone feel less than, or using your influence and your superiority in any setting of life to be able to have that person do what you want them to do is a type of bullying. So I just want you to know something, that all of us will face end of life. Every single one of us, because you don't live forever. No one has lived forever. So we're all going to face death. And what I want you to ask yourself is, did I do everything? It says for us not to be ashamed of the name of Jesus and for what he's done and to speak about him. And because really, the truth be known, all we're doing on the face of the earth is to love God, love our families, be good parents. But the most important thing is to love God and love others. Okay? And when you see someone that is being bullied, whether it's social media, whether it's in school, no matter where it is, and you don't stop it, or if you're part of it, really think about whose team you're on. God is about encouraging each other, building each other up, forgiving each other, helping each other. The enemy is about tearing people down. So if you're part of tearing people down and you go along with it, you need to think about where you're at with your walk with God. And if you have done it, I'm not saying you won't be forgiven. You will be. You can be forgiven. You can be forgiven. I ask forgiveness of sins. I was one of the biggest sinners in my 20s, teens. I made huge mistakes. And tomorrow I'll get up and I may have a bad thought. I may say a bad word and say, God, forgive me, but I'm conscious of it. I'm conscious of doing wrong. I'm conscious of doing right. And every single person watching this has a responsibility to children, to people on social media, to build people up. You see kids and they're bullied by all these people and teachers ignore it or people ignore it. Always, always address it. Stomp it out and stop it. Because you never know how many people bullied this one girl that took her life, which there's many that committed suicide because of cyberbullying. Many, many, many. And so we're talking about 13-year-old children with a bright future. Bullying is from Satan. Hate is from Satan. Lying is from Satan. Damaging someone so bad is from Satan. Let me tell you something. If you've been a person that has damaged another person, you can repent and you can turn around and go on with your life, just like I repented for things I've done in my past before when I was in my 20s. I've never bullied, and that's one thing I can't stand is bullying, and I've always stood up against it, even in high school, even in college, even as a young adult. I always stood up. I can't stand bullying. To me, it's just suppressing and hurting the weaker person, and I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong in every arena of life, in every one of them. And remember one thing, you are really given a mission. People may laugh and say, oh, she thinks about the devil, or she thinks Satan. He's there. He is bad, and he's the tempter. He is the accuser of the brethren. He is the liar. He's the thief. He's the lion that's prowling around in search for souls to devour. That's biblical. That's not Mary. That's biblical. So when you think, oh, this is crazy, this is outlandish, and sometimes the enemy may even come in your mind to say, well, maybe it's not 100% true. Maybe it's not. Just go to the Bible. Don't listen to me. Go to the Bible. But what I want to tell you is encourage, and love children who seem to be isolated, or young adults who seem to be isolated. And let me tell you something that may shock you. A lot of young boys or girls who are bullied because of their sexuality, for example, homosexuality. I want you to understand something. Homosexuality is a mind game, a tactic that the enemy plays from the time, a lot of times these kids are very, very young. Now, psychologists will put a name on it. Oh, it's this stage of life. Oh, it's that stage of life. And let me tell you something. It goes to every person. You're not exempt. But let me tell you something. The Bible is very clear on homosexuality. It's very, very clear about homosexuality. But here's the thing. We are here to win souls for Jesus Christ. You don't win souls by bashing people. You win souls by showing them the love of Jesus. So if you see a homosexual, remember, just look at them and look at them in a spiritual sense. Okay, just think about this for a second. Instead of bombarding them with meanness and saying, oh, well, you won't go to heaven, you're a homosexual. Well, let me tell you something. You may not go to heaven because of your sins in your past if you haven't repented. But it's not us to say who's going to be allowed in heaven or hell. I don't go along with homosexuality. I don't agree with homosexuality, transgender restrooms, none of it, because what you're doing is you're allowing that person that's in the dark to stay in the dark. You're not condemning them. It says that you're not to put them in shame. You're not supposed to make them feel shame. The devil's doing that. We're supposed to show them the love of Christ and that their sins can be forgiven just like mine was forgiven. And what God wants here in this whole scenario of life is for us to win souls back to Him that are in bondage to Satan. Homosexuality is a bondage. That's what all it is. It's not the food we eat. It's not, the fact that we need to be open-minded to it. We need to be loving. You love that person not because you accept the sin. You love that person because they're God's child. They're God's child, just like I'm God's child, and I made mistakes in my past. And you know what changed me? Feeling the love of God, knowing the love and forgiveness of Jesus. So Jesus' goal is to get these people who are in bondage to Him, just like the person who's doing the bullying. We are to make sure that even the people who are doing the bullying understand the impact that it's having in the spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, you are taking someone and you're bullying them and you're causing hurt and anger and anxiety and low self-esteem. That's from the enemy. You're joining in with the enemy. You have a homosexual here. You're bashing them because they're a homosexual. Satan has already put them in bondage to that sin. He's already got them in bondage. And this is the mind game he plays. Satan plays with him. Oh, you should be accepted because you're homosexual. What's wrong with it? It's your lifestyle. It's what you choose. You're free to choose it. You were born that way. That's what the enemy's whispering to him or her. And guess what? He's telling all the other ones, bully them now that they're homosexual. And they get to such a place many, many times where they can't take it anymore. They commit suicide. So do you think any part of that is from God? No. But by showing the love of Christ to people who are bullied, homosexual, people who feel like they can't be forgiven, now I know I'm forgiven. There was a time I didn't think I could be, and I felt hopeless, and I had suicidal thoughts, and that was one of my videos. That's why I speak out on this. This is my mission that God gave me. But let me tell you the source of it. It's not Joe. It's not Bob. It's not Susie. It's not Tiffany. It's not these people. It's the enemy. It's the spirit of the enemy going through these people to damage and chip away at these people. You embrace the person who is in sin, okay? Understand that. You embrace them and you pray for them. You don't bash them. Now, like I said, there are some cases where you have to pray from a distance because that person is going to damage you, and you can't let someone damage your walk with God. You can pray from a distance, but they can't damage your walk. But when I look at a young man who's confused or a young woman who's confused about their sexuality, people may disagree, scientists or researchers, psychologists. They may say, oh, you're damaging them by saying, I'm looking at them saying you're loved. In fact, you may even be more loved than me because the enemy feels so scared of you that he has to put this severe bondage on you that you feel like you can't break free. But as a Christian, if you see it almost like a strategy, almost like God's army, the enemy's army. The enemy's army is going after these kids, these young adults and these men and women. And he's twisting it, just like with pornography, twisting it, just like bullying, twisting it, damaging, slowly seeping in like a terrible cancer into these people. But you know what you have to do? You have to be the light. Turn the light on for them and say, you're not hated. You're not hated at all. In fact, you're prayed for and loved. And you must be pretty special because the enemy wants you to be kept in bondage. But God has plans for you. God has plans for the bully. Yes, He has plans for someone who is the bully on social media, who is a bully in the classroom. He has plans for the person who's been bullied. But all these things coming at people now, all these bondages is straight from the enemy. And what we have to do as Christians is not join in with the enemy bashing them. We have to say, of course God doesn't love sin. He doesn't like sin. It separates us from the love of God. But at the same time, you love the sinner. You dislike the sin, but you love the sinner. Like me, God always loved me. He never didn't love me when I was in my 20s. That's when I probably was doing my worst, was in my early 20s, but which I never bullied. I've never been able to stand bullying. But I never felt apart from God, but I felt distance. And that's what the enemy wants to do. He wants you to live in shame, to feel a distance between you and God. But you have a mission. You have a mission in your community, in your church, around people. And let me tell you something, don't worry about what people think about you. I hear people, they'll start out strong talking about Jesus and they back up and because they get attacked instantly. It's so funny. I've seen it before. It's not funny, but it's just like, oh my gosh. They will say, I just have to say, Jesus was really a man that walked on the face of the earth. I mean, they have research has shown this and this and this. And then the next time they post something, it's totally not about Jesus because they were so bombarded and attacked. And that's what it is. It's a spiritual battle. But I speak out. And let me tell you something. Some of the strongest people in the world are people who don't have a perfect life. Things aren't perfect for them. I don't expect things to be absolutely perfect for me to say that I love Jesus Christ. Now, I pray every day that my family is in church, that my family is restored. And right now, all 3 of my kids, they go to church with me. And that has been a years in the making, years of prayers from this mama, years of prayers. And my oldest son went to church with me today, and I'm so proud of him. My daughter is in church all the time. She's in church every week with her boyfriend. My youngest is in church. And I think, I'm a mom with 3 kids that are going to church. Now, I'm not going to say they won't ever stumble, because I can't say I am living a perfect life. And if you can show me someone who has a perfect life, I'd love to see it, because the last person who's perfect is Jesus Christ. But we live every day to please Him, and we live to not live in sin. Because let me tell you something. When I was a sinner, like when I did things I knew was against God, and I did them anyway in my 20s, it puts a distance between you and God, and you feel, and that's what the enemy does. He puts shame on you. He puts shame on you where you can't feel like you can be forgiven. But anyway, back on my subject, we're losing too many young lives to suicide. Way too many young lives, and it is the enemy. People need to snap out of it. They're like in a fog about who's causing this, who's causing that, and who has a right to, why does she have a right to say this, or he have a right to speak about this? When you speak up against something wrong, and when you love God, even when things aren't perfect, I would love it if my husband went to church, for example. That's my thing. My thing is cyberbullying. I can't stand adults bullying each other. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. But children being bullied and young adults being bullied to the point of suicide, that is the enemy. That is the enemy. And you are in enemy camp when you go along with it. So that is my passion. My other one is I pray all the time, and I'll always ask everybody to pray that my husband is saved and that he knows the love of Jesus. That's what I want. That's what I would love. I'm married. I've been married 22 years, but that's always been my struggle and always been my prayer for the last probably 8 or 10 years, something like that, which most everybody knows about that. So I go to church with my kids, and at first it was just me and my daughter, and then my son, and now my older son. So slowly I see everything changing, very, very slowly, but I see it changing because of God, not because of me. I pray a lot, but it's 100% because of God. So that's my prayer, is that my husband does that. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if say, for example, tomorrow he will say, yeah, I think I do want to go to church with you. Or, to be honest with you, if tomorrow he goes to church, I'm blessed, I'm happy. If tomorrow he left and didn't want to be with me, and this, you may find this hard to believe, I'm still blessed. Because nothing takes away the love of God in my heart. Everybody in every walk of life, everybody that you see out there has their struggles, like these kids, like this girl. What if one person had reached out to that girl? What if one person had said, you're bullying this girl, this is wrong, and reported it? She may be alive today. She may be with her mom and her dad today, her sister who cries and misses her. You know what I mean? So back to, I know I've skipped around quite a bit, and I'm sorry for that. But anyway, I don't like long videos, so I'll end it with saying, you can be forgiven. Whether you're the bully or you've been bullied, you can be forgiven. Know the source. Know the source. Don't be blind. It is from the enemy. It's from the enemy. If someone's trying to make another person look bad on social media, it's the enemy trying to shut that person down, especially if you're screaming Jesus. Especially if you're a girl. And what the enemy does is he really isolates and then targets one person. Because the more they're targeted, of course, the more anything happens to you over and repeatedly, then it breaks a person down and they can't take it anymore. And that is from the enemy. So break that chain. Stop it if you see it. Report it if you see it. And just be forgiving and take it easy on people. I forgive people who have hurt me terribly. They've hurt me terribly over the years. But I look at it and I say, you know what? You're supposed to pray for your enemies. And that's what I'm going to do. It's very easy to follow His word. Just pray for your enemies. And I said, that's what I'm going to do, pray. And you know what? I have a sense of peace in my life. But my mission on this earth, and he gives each of us one. Yours is maybe singing. Yours may be mission work. Yours may be feeding the hungry, taking care of orphans. Yours may be working in a hospital setting and taking care of, sick people. So whatever your mission is, do it and follow through and believe that you're making a difference. So anyway, don't ever give up. And don't ever let anyone around you give up. Pray for people. Stand up for what's right. And stand up against bullying. Anyway, love you guys. I think I finished it this time.